there's a whole range of different people here. Sadly, not every school that we're working in is here. Some had a governor's meeting, some had a staff meeting, some, all the usual things, and we understand that. But thank you very much to all of you for giving up your evening, or early part of the evening, and joining us for this occasion. I thought it would be helpful if, first of all, I just explained why we are here and how CATS came to be. The origins of this exercise go back into the sculpture show that we've run at Kingham Lodge for some 10 years or so now. We invited from the beginning children to exhibit there through local schools, and a few did. And then it was dwindling, and it became clear the schools didn't seem to have anybody who could do these things. And then we had, in 21, some really good, 18 rather, some really good exhibits from one school in particular. And two people said to me, look, if we give you £1,000, could you make something happen in other schools? And I sort of scratched my head and said, I'll try. And we made a bit extra at that exhibition because so many people came. So I did 5,000, and with 7,000 wrote to 20 local schools and said, what do you need to do art? Are you doing art? Can we be of any help to make more art happen? The answer came back basically that art was pretty well dead. The art cupboards weren't stocked. They didn't have art teachers. It just wasn't happening anymore, which I thought was absolutely horrific. So we offered help. We got artists who were willing to go into the schools and do art workshops. We offered to restock the arts cupboards, and we offered art prizes for any school that wanted to run a competition. And then when it came to the next show, we offered sculptors to go and help schools prepare an exhibit. In the 2023 show, we had 20 schools exhibiting, and 2,500 children came to see the show before it opened to the public. And that, I thought, was a reasonable achievement to get that far in a couple of years. But I asked, or kept asking the question, what is happening about other arts? And there's a very variable scene. There are one or two schools where there is still music going. There were very few left where the music hub was doing much. And there were a lot of schools where there was no music happening, and some where there wasn't even singing in an assembly or anything, because they only had 2 or 3 teachers, and nobody could sing, nobody could play, and so the children were getting nothing. And so I exercised the privilege of an old man and got on to all the different arts organisations in the area where I had been a friend or a patron or a member or whatever it might be, and said, look, do you think that we could all collectively do something about this? And everybody said yes, absolutely. And so we buckled to, we called ourselves Cotswolds Arts Through Schools, and we said we won't spend time setting up a constitution or a committee or all these other tedious things that take weeks. We will get on with it and see whether or not there is an appetite from the schools, whether or not we can raise any money, and whether or not we can make things happen. Is there really a need here? And what you see now in CATS is the product of the last 2 years that we've been slogging away. For the 25 show, we had 4,000 children come to see before the show opened. 34 schools exhibited, along with 10 prisons, 50 English sculptors, and about 60 Zimbabwean sculptors. And that's why you've got a Zimbabwean sculpture on your table in many cases. These are little ones of the sort of things that we show from Zimbabwe in that show. Fortunately, we made some money at the show, and there is therefore from the show 50,000 a year for 2 years to help finance CATS. And we've raised money from all sorts of other places. There's been some generous donations. One trust has given us 50,000 a year for 3 years. Others have given us 10, 5, 20, etc. Some of them have repeated that already several times and have made commitments going forward. So our budget that we started with of £7,000 is now over £250,000. And we are definitely headed for some 400,000 for 27, because by then I'm anticipating that we will be well over 11,000 children, well over 70 schools, and that most of you will be wanting a great deal more from us than we are currently providing. So that was the process that has gone on. And during that time of contacting schools, contacting trusts, etc., we have added stuff to our website, and I will come back to that. But what I came to realize, and I think a lot of other people came to realize, was that it wasn't just a question of a bit of colouring in or a little bit of singing in assembly. Actually, the arts are fundamental to a child's development. I'm not talking about a child's education. I'm talking about a child's development. And that if they're not getting the arts, and they're not drawing and painting and reciting and making up poems and making up stories and playing in the dirt and building models and climbing trees and making stories about the trees, if they're not doing any of those things, then they are missing out on a crucial part of childhood. And it's a very sobering fact to realize that the research that has come out this year in America shows that this generation of children going through is the first generation in 100 years whose cognitive development is worse than their parents at the same stage. Now, that isn't just a question of the lack of arts in schools, it's principally due to screens. Screens for gaming, screens for social media, and screens being used at schools. They're all equally damaging. So we will come back to a bit of that later on and share more of that evidence and so on. But what we set out to do was to make sure that children can have fun at school, that it is a place they want to go to, and therefore absenteeism levels wouldn't continue to rise. It wouldn't be something they were anxious about and therefore hiding away and staying away. It would be places where they wanted to go. It would be fun to do things. They wanted to stay on and do things. And they would be talking about what they'd been doing when they got home and replicating it. So that's what we're about. We're trying to create enthusiasm, trying to create an arts-rich environment in the schools, and trying to help you, the teachers, help children develop and encourage parents to help children develop through the medium of the arts. We're not just trying to create future audiences for concerts and all the rest of it, though that matters. And we're not trying just to create actors. We also want to create engineers and architects and designers and all the other things for which the arts are absolutely the bedrock. Our current system is an exam treadmill producing people who will not have jobs by the time they leave school. AI will have taken the jobs. What do you want for the next generation of workers? Empathy, creativity, imagination, willingness to try and experiment. That's the arts. It's not just the 3 R's. So that's why we're here. It's to create an arts-rich environment. And we thought we'd start with a little example of what is happening at Charlbury at the moment. One of the things that I get asked when I'm doing funding applications is, what is the public benefit of this activity? And I'm tempted to try and write, well, if you ever had a child in your house and not seen the advantage of them learning a song at school, I'll bet there isn't a parent or grandparent who hasn't now learned how to be a penguin. Anyway, Charlbury has been going at it with music rather longer than many other schools. I cannot begin to claim that everything that is happening there is the result of what Cats has done. But Charlbury had music, but it didn't have art. So we have been of help in developing the art there. And this is true in all sorts of places. Some schools have art, some have a bit of music, some have something else. What I want all of you to think about is just how much more could we do if we use all the resources that we have. And that's something, again, we'll come back to later. But what we're going to do now is to look at some research that has been done this last year by the University of Nottingham with the rather colourful Pat Thompson leading that research. You'll see why I refer to her in that way in a minute. Pat is now living in Australia and so can't be with us in person today, but she suggested that we could use this presentation that you're going to see now. It was done for a arts, what you can call them, everybody together on a Zoom, which Jacqui O'Hanlon presided over very well, and which they had several clips of different things. And what I've done is to, with Genevieve's help, is to edit that. So you're going to get, first of all, a headmistress or deputy headmistress from Tower Hamlets School telling you about how their school works as an arts-rich environment. And then a little bit about a head from a school in Bradford, which was in special measures and failing, and which set about trying to pull its socks up by creating an arts-rich environment at the school. And the head became Headmaster of the Year nationally in 2019. So that's a little bit of a news clip. And I'm going to ask Dee Loader, a headmistress here from one of our schools that is in our area, to say a little bit about what they are doing and how they are creating an arts-rich environment in Bishop Loveday School. And then we will have the video of Pat Thompson presenting the results of her research over the course of the last couple of years. And I think you will find that research is fascinating for what it tells you. Anyway, first of all, Tower Hamlets.
But I'm going to start with the top of that list of what all the schools did was art and music. So in our school, we've got instrumental provision for 120 children each week. And we have a range of instruments as well. So we have string, wind, brass. And the reason why we do that is so that we can introduce an element of ensemble and orchestra. And we've done that for about 5 years now. And it's something we invest. I think that's probably the first answer what our school does. That's something we invest in. So there's no charge for parents for any of that. They can take their instruments home, practice at home, in school as well. If they don't want to take a trombone home, which some of our families don't, fair enough. So we invest and we create these opportunities. That's music. For art, we've got a dedicated art studio and art specialist. So I'm the art specialist, as long as with an assistant head, I also teach art. We've got really strong partnerships with creative and cultural organisations and also local schools and networks. So it's finding partnerships everywhere, really. I think, there's strength in numbers. So you sort of find your tribe in all sorts of places. We go on lots of trips and again, loads of trips actually. Sort of each child has a trip each half term. So to a creative or cultural venue. We're in London, so we're really spoiled with places to go, but you have to use what you have around you, and so we certainly do, but there's no charge to parents for that either. CPDs, we provide internal and external art CPD for teachers and initial teacher training as well, and we see the value in that. Pupil leadership, we're one of the schools with an arts council as well, so we've had one for about sort of 7 years now, and it's just brilliant just to have the pupil voice, really have the pupils leading on the arts, and that's really competitive as well. There's a lot of applicants for that each year. And place. So we use what we have. Our history is embedded within our curriculum and our school culture. We're really lucky. Our school was built as part of the Festival of Britain, so 1951. So architecturally, it's interesting. we can use that within our curriculum. But also, there's a really strong history in Poplar. So, we're in an area of economic challenge, but actually our school has a lot to be proud of. And so we embed that across all of our curriculum. And I guess that kind of goes into the why we do it, really. But, Tower Hamlets, that's the borough I'm based in. So that's got the highest rate of child poverty in the UK. We know that most of our families don't have opportunities to these arts and cultural experiences outside of school. So we know it's our responsibility to provide them. We want our children to work alongside and be inspired by artists, designers, dancers, performers. We want to ignite their passion. They can be whatever they want to be when they grow up. So we want a level playing field. We want the cultural capital like any other school. We've got high levels of EAL and SEND children, and the arts, we find, provide those children with other ways to express themselves, to communicate, to access the curriculum, to retain knowledge, retain information. Culture and community, we know we've created something special in our school, and we're continually striving to make it better. It doesn't happen overnight. I've been at my school for 10 years now, but we're still trying to make it better. What else can we do? And we've got a really supportive community. Our parents really value creativity. So in our parent survey, that's one of our questions. Do you value creativity? And we had 100% response of yes, they do. So it's another sort of driver. We know we're doing the right thing. We know our families appreciate it. We know our teachers and children appreciate it too. And my final, the impact. So how we can measure all of this work. But we have gathered some evidence that the arts can support learning and knowledge acquisition across the curriculum. And most recently, we've done that through the Paul Hamlin Foundation Teacher Development Fund. So we've been exploring ways that dance and movement can be used across the curriculum. And we found really sort of positive results of that. And that's with 5 local schools as well. So that was really valuable research over 2 years. We're just sort of coming to the end of that now. Our staff and children are enjoying teaching and learning through the arts. We know that through their surveys too. Art is the top favourite subject across the school. I don't bribe them or anything, so I'm very proud of that. I can stay. Our children are going on to study GCSE art subjects at secondary schools. We see a lot of the siblings, but also we've got a lot of feeder secondary schools, so we can monitor that. Our children want to be artists, designers, architects when they grow up, and we're seeing a broader range of aspirations year on year. And skills such as communication, confidence, and collaboration are developing. So, we just think the arts are empowering our community with a voice. I'm going to end there.
This school is rated in the top 10% in England for improving children's performance in English and maths. It's in a deprived and diverse area. 98% of its pupils speak English as an additional language. So what's the secret? Music. In 2010, the government rated this school in Bradford as failing.
We were in special measures. The children were disengaged. Behaviour was a massive issue.
So under new leadership, the school decided to try something different. It embraced music. In a big way. In 2013, it recruited its first music coordinator.
When I first started, the school was just coming out of special measures. There was virtually no music going on at all. Now, between 3 and 8 hours a week for every student. And then if they choose to come to all the lunchtime clubs and after school clubs, then they are accessing up to 8 hours of music with a specialist every week.
Crucially, Jimmy's lessons are all designed to be
very energetic and entertaining.
The lessons make sure children actively perform music, not just passively learn about it.
It's a myth that some children are musically talented and some are not. Every child is musically talented.
The school's eldest pupils are now in the top 2% in England for progress in English and maths.
It makes you enjoy, like, your day.
Enjoy school?
Yeah. It helps in other subjects as well.
There's a lot of pressure on schools to not do arts because they're scared that the results will be affected. Actually, music and arts are the bedrock of education success. You know, your results will go up using music and arts, not down.
You can see now why I was encouraging you all to bring governors and parents, not just heads. You know, a community activity to make the school an arts-rich environment. Anyway, Dee, would you like to say a little bit about Bishop Loveday? Come and have a microphone. Or you stay there.
I've written some names because so I've been at Bishop Loveday, this is my 5th year now. Technically, I guess you would say I'm a music specialist, so I did do a music degree. I worked in a small school, medium school, and a large school. And I think for me, it's about reducing barriers to lots of people go, yeah, well, we can't do that because we're a small school. We can't do that because we've got lots of premium children. We can't do that because we've got lots of SEN. And actually, we always have this motto, and I know that my art lead here will be hearing this before, that we always say, we've just got to think outside the box. We've got to think of a different way. And so that's what we've tried to do at Bishop Loveday. I think we're quite a average school. So we've got 425 children. We've got 20 education, health and care plans. We've got 80 SEN children. We've got just under, I think, 70 pupil premium children. And I know that obviously there are lots of challenges now with schools today, and it's just about thinking outside the box of what we can do. When I first arrived, it was about the curriculum and making sure that the curriculum met the needs of our children. Our curriculum's very, very active because our children cannot sit still for that long. I don't know any child that can. We even had it that I know Ju had created an art curriculum, but actually we made the decision to move to Access Art which was a really heavy decision for my art lead, who had spent hours on a curriculum, because actually she felt like the art curriculum was better and provided better CPD for our teachers. So we moved to a curriculum, and I've written a music curriculum from scratch, which incorporates everything that I felt like was important for our children. It needs to be well resourced, and it needs to be well. So I always joke a year 6 child could teach the music that we've done, because it is so prescriptive and so supported for those staff who do not know how to do it. And I'd say that's the same with Access Art as well, that it really does support staff. I remember a child coming who said, oh God, she doesn't have leather music, does she, that new ed teacher? Like this. And so actually it was just about introducing them. Children didn't even know what a recorder was when I arrived. We were post-COVID, no singing, nothing. And I think that actually Ju and I had that chat with regards to, we feel like the arts support children's writing. We feel like the arts support everything we do. We've changed our timetable around. So all of our Key Stage 2 start with a non-core. They don't start. And actually that really helped with regard to getting our children in. We have children who have soft landings when they come in. So you might see 3 kids on go-karts on the playground before they come in. You might have another child who's doing an art activity, depending on what they need, and making it very tailored to them. And from that, I would say that actually our attendance has improved massively. So over the 4 years, we've gone from kind of 15% persistent absentees to 9% now. And our pupil premium was 47% 3 years ago, and it's down to 24%. We're not there yet, but we won't go and pick the children up, and we've said that. So we're still working on it, and we're still not there. But actually, these children, giving the children opportunities with the children who, they really love, and they love having access. So it's really important that all of our children have access to the opportunities. We've got very, very active arts ambassadors. So they actually come on learning walks with us, and they come and talk. They get the pupil voice for us, and they are very, very involved in everything we're doing. They shape our curriculum. They are very vocal. All of our children are very vocal, but we love it like that. So they really help us, and they let us know what we can do better. We really support music lessons in school. So there's tiny barriers with regards to, you've got the music just like, oh, for God's sake, they've got to go and do a 20-minute lesson. Actually, we say, yeah, come in. We try and make it, can you do it in a carousel so they're not missing the same lesson each week? But we work with them. It's thinking outside the box to support them. What was really nice is that the new trumpet teacher said, oh, it's amazing. They know all the notes and they can read notation. And I was like, amazing. That is my music curriculum working, which is amazing. We have really worked hard with regards to making sure that we are well resourced. So we have had that drive for class sets of glockenspiels, class sets of handbells. We have toot flutes and recorders and ocarinas, and we have art trolleys that each phase has, and sketchbooks. So every child has a sketchbook. I remember Jude coming to me saying, we need 450 sketchbooks, and then the price went up by £1.50 per sketchbook, and it was a big within a week. Anyway, we did it and we sorted it, and we have to be creative. Because I know funding, you have to think outside the box. We also do outdoor play and learning. So Opal is really important. It works brilliantly with the arts. So our kids are used to being creative, and they're used to making and doing things. So we are just having an amphitheatre built at the moment, and they've already got the scripts and the shows. I think Year 6 brought in a green baby, and they've got Baby Shrek, which they're doing. They're ready for the amphitheatre. So hopefully it's okay, but yes, our Year 6s can't wait to do a show. With regards to play, we always try and encourage children to do what we can. We've got children who don't want to perform, but actually they love the background side of things. So when we do our shows, the children do the entire show. So they're doing the lighting, they're doing the music, they're doing the stage directions, and they do everything. So they'll put the entire show on, so that everybody's included. We often use, for kind of mini breaks between lessons, we will use the arts to support us. Clubs were really important to us. So we absolutely trawl everywhere for anyone offering clubs. We barter with them. So we say, yeah, you can come, we won't charge you, but we want 2 places. And then we will then offer them to, at the beginning of the year, we always ask all of our children what extra activities they do, and then we go through and we target children who are not doing any clubs to then be incorporated into our clubs. We had a situation where we had a really active art and craft club, and we lost a staff member. So again, it was like, right, let's think outside the box. So we incorporated it into our after school club. And so they do it at the same time, which means they can only have one adult, but they still do the art and craft that they're doing. And it's a Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2. We've got a very active choir. Handbells is a very, very easy way. There's tons of things on YouTube. I can send people links on YouTube. Even our children who are awaiting specialist provision come to do handbells. They love it. And at lunchtime to come and play handbells, and it doesn't sound as bad as recorders. It's actually quite a nice sound. So they do that. We also work really closely with Frank Wise School. So they come and we use the arts to support. So they come and do our music curriculum, and we then go and do artwork and go to Frank Wise with them, with our Year 3 children. Obviously, funding is a massive, massive issue. We are very heavily supported by our PTA and then support of our governors. So having said that, like our chair and both chairs are here, which kind of just shows how important it is. And actually, I know Carla, as the chair of PTA, is kind of used to me going, I've got a plan, we've got it, and it all comes from the children. So they've helped us with the amphitheatre that we're building. Again, because we're a large school, we have to be able to sit 60 kids. So we have to think, when we do things like the giant sandpit, we've got the go-karts, we have to be able to house 420 children. So we have to think big, and we go, so the children have got a giant beach. They now think that they're going to get lots of paddling pools all around the edge so that they can have the water. But we have had water slides and things like that. So they bring in their PE kit when it's hot weather, and they do things like that. So and get music out and things like that. We do, as a head, obviously I'm very lucky that I am in control of the money. We do, because our vision is the life in all its fullness, be kind, be honest, and have courage to live life in all its fullness. We have a life in all its fullness pot. So any money that we make from clubs goes into the life in all its fullness pot, and that goes back to the kids with what they want to do. So you have to put money into it, because otherwise it then, once you've saved up and done it. So we've done busking. So our choir really wanted the class set of handbells. So they were outside busking to raise money. We support local group. So the local community drama group, we heavily subsidise rental for them to come in. We then obviously are really supported by CATS, and for us it was about having the enrichment of the opportunities and the live artists and the real people, and actually having those opportunities are amazing. So yeah, there's some of the things that I managed to just quickly write down as some of the things we do. I think it's really hard in climate right now with regards to education, but I think that everybody, whatever school you're in, you just need to think outside the box. And if you want to do it, you can. And I think I come from, even when I wasn't head or when I was in a small school, I actually had more children. I had about 65 kids in my very small school that I was in. So I think actually it's just making sure that there's no barriers and that you kind of think of a different way to encourage people to do the arts. And there's always a way. You just got to think outside the box.
Thank you very much.
To start with, we wanted to look at, what the characteristics of arts-rich primary schools were. And we talk about this as a design. We say there's a kind of a design which is common to the arts-rich primary schools. We did this study during COVID, which made it pretty tricky, and we initially found, 180 odd schools who with various means were arts rich, and we mailed them all and asked them to complete a survey, and 76 of them did. And this is the pattern. I think the first pattern that we saw was that arts-rich primary schools teach a wide range of arts subjects. They all teach art and music, and by and large, they teach art and music to all children every week, every year. Sometimes a few of them is a little less than that, but there's a very strong commitment to a core curriculum which consists of art and music plus other things. So this is the kind of richness of the experience that the children are getting. We also saw some other kind of characteristics, if you like, across those 76 schools. There seemed to be very strong, as you'd expect, a very strong commitment to the arts from the school governors and school leaders. People saw that the arts were part of the school DNA. We were often told that it was about the school DNA. People, as we went further in the research, we confirmed that there was an understanding about why you do arts education and what kind of benefits that people thought that the children were getting. Very importantly, the survey showed that the schools had specialist staff, not only on staff, but also access specialist staff through cultural organisations and sometimes through, part-time employment. They had dedicated budgets and there were often dedicated spaces. And the budget and spaces were not necessarily easily won. Schools often had to, we found in our further research, the schools had to work really hard often to maintain the budget for this area, and really did have to be committed to it. And the Arts Rich School, the other kind of characteristic is they have ongoing partnerships with more than one arts organisation and artist. And these are not just about projects, these are genuine kind of partnerships. And we do say a lot more about that in the report. So I think one of the things that we've done in the research is we've highlighted the importance of specialist art teachers in primary schools, and we say a number of things about the specialist art teachers and their importance, the way in which they work in a very trusting relationship with the senior leaders in the school. They possess very deep knowledge about their subjects, and they not only teach an art subject themselves, and they often don't do all the arts teaching in the school, they do some of it, but they also generally lead the development across the arts in the school. And that development has got, what we would understand as a clear kind of curriculum intention, and there's a clear kind of framework that shows children's progression through learning in the arts, and they monitor that, and they there's a process within the school for ensuring the quality of the arts education. But they also support classroom teachers in their generalist arts teaching. So in other words, the specialist art teachers are not responsible for all of the arts teaching. That's shared, but they often team teach, they provide resources, they engage in, formal and informal professional learning with their colleagues in the school. They often work outside the school. They build partnerships with arts organisations. They're often the first point of call for arts organisations. They organise events, which are really important in establishing relationships with the community. And they are part of and often establish networks in their local area and also beyond in the national area. So they're actually doing what, in research terms, we often call kind of system leadership, actually beyond the individual school, beyond the curriculum leadership that they exercise within the school. And we did in the study, and when you get the report, you'll see that we did survey general classroom teachers in a subsection of our sample of 40, in 22 of them. And what we could see is that, contrary to the research which has been carried out in a number of parts of the world, including in the UK, which reports that primary teachers, generalist primary teachers, generally don't feel very confident about teaching the arts. This was not the case in the arts-rich primary schools. Generalist classroom teachers generally felt, reasonably confident about teaching the arts subjects by themselves in their classroom, because they knew they could get support and resources. And it's kind of obvious, but it's helpful to actually know that we can confirm that generalist classroom teachers do get considerable support and professional development from those specialist arts teachers, and also from some of the cultural organisations that work with the school. But while we've talked about this as a pattern, we also, could see that every one of these arts-rich schools was unique. These were not cookie-cutter schools. They were not, really highly corporate. They were very individual, and they had different ways of doing things. One of the ways which was that helped them be distinctive, they were, different buildings, different histories. They were in different parts of the world, but they often had used the arts to forge very strong connections with place, and finding things in the place that they could work with and around through the arts helped to make the curriculum inclusive. Learning about the local is part of the primary curriculum, and children did use often cross-curricular approaches with the arts to learn about history, geography, the cultures in their neighbourhood, and how these connected to issues and events and the wider world. Schools often, had really strong connections with their local communities and artists, and took part in, heritage events, for example, were often very major contributors to these kind of local events. And this helped children in their own kind of identity formation, but also form collective identities around the neighbourhood, and it brought children and families together. And what we saw, from looking at what the children told us, is that the children had some kind of pride in these activities, and through that their communities, and that was the precursor to the kind of active citizenship that Catterall's talking about. It is formed in the primary school through these kind of place-based activities. As Liam said, he talked to a lot of children. They often met him at the school gate, as arts ambassadors, and I think he was met by the Minister for Arts in the school on more than one occasion. But the schools were really committed to the way in which the arts help children develop their self-belief, their efficacy, their sense of being able to do things in the world, that strong sense of agency. The children confirmed that. Teachers often spoke about the children as artists, the specialist teachers, and because of that, children were taught a number of things that are important in arts practice, particularly that kind of capacity to think about what's good and what's not, and how it is that you can become good. And there was a focus on looking at the kind of progress that they'd made. And the schools often combined the arts with other echo schools, for example, with other priorities, and very often there were a lot of the schools got rights-respecting schools, and the arts were integral to that that kind of priority, because they helped build, what we've called sociality, but those kind of social practices. The arts were very important, and many of the schools had participatory processes like arts councils, for example, which allowed some children to have a say in what was happening in their arts programs. One of the most important findings, we think, is this notion of leadership density, that this is not, for the school people here, this is not distributed leadership. It is distributed, but the most important thing about it, we think, is that there were a lot of people involved in arts-rich schools in providing leadership of different kinds, ranging from, the senior leadership team and the specialist teachers through children, teachers, teaching assistants, governors, and they were able to actually all kind of move in the same direction. They had a shared vision. They all had their own part to play, but they were all moving together towards the same kind of goals around arts richness. And we heard people talking about that, and we can demonstrate that through looking at putting interviews together, that this kind of pulling in the same direction, achieving the goals of arts richness and rights respecting and so on, was actually happening. And so at the end of this, after we looked at, just saying about leadership density, it doesn't mean all the schools had a similar structure. They had different kinds of structures, just in the same way they had different ways of relating to place. But there was a kind of formal structure within the school as well. But there was also this more kind of informal process, very conversational, that went on, but it was differently inflected for each of the schools. And when we add all those things up and look at arts richness, this is the question we're left with. Why would you want to be arts poor? And the most important, perhaps, demonstration of that is we were able to compare the arts-rich schools with similar schools using family database, which is still now, it was taken down during COVID and is now being compiled again by the Education Endowment Foundation, and where they construct, little families of 50 schools. And what we did find is that the majority of RAP schools, the arts-rich primary schools, were doing just as well as other schools, in some cases better. And, they were also doing, most of them were doing better than schools in their local authorities. Now, we think, better than is amazing. I mean, as good as, on the same kind of bell curve as other schools, would be terrific, given that a lot of people seem to think that doing the arts in your school is going to make your results go down. In reality, I think what this research suggests, and it could certainly do with a wider look, but our research suggests quite strongly that arts-rich schools are doing what James Catterall suggests of secondary schools, that the primary schools are likely to be providing the kind of environment where children, most of the schools, where children are doing as well as, if not better than, children in other schools. And so our big question really is, if that's the case, why would a lot more schools not choose to be arts rich, given the additional benefits that come from being engaged in the arts. And at the end of the report, you'll see we do have two sets of recommendations. One I haven't shown here. One is about things that you might do to become an arts-rich school. We want to say that, you know, these arts-rich schools are an astounding resource for the school system in thinking about how it is that you become arts rich, and we outline, you know, some of the kind of key steps that schools have taken that they told us about. We didn't make this up. This is what they said they did. But we also have made some recommendations for scaling up arts-rich primary schools, which we think starts with an entitlement to expressive arts learning for every child, which focuses on teacher education. Other research we did showed that primary teachers generally get, not exclusively, but in most teacher education programs, there's a cursory nod to the arts. Schools do find it difficult to get specialist art teachers. It's clear that they make a huge difference, and we think there should be special targeted programs to allow more people to train to become specialist art teachers. We think that a kind of national network of arts-rich schools would really help if there was some commitment to scaling up arts richness. We think cultural organisations ought to be specifically supported for developing long-term partnerships with schools and not just these kind of short-term projects. And you know, it would be good if, when primary schools were being built from now on, there was some attention paid to the kind of facilities that they have. I think I've talked a little too long. Apologies for that. But you can now download the report on artsprimary.com. It's a little compressed file. I'll just warn you, you need to uncompress it. It's a PDF. It's the equivalent of a zip file. So you do need to actually save it and uncompress it. Otherwise, it's very hard to read. And I'd just like to end by thanking, on behalf of Chris and Liam, all the schools and the staff who spent so much time showing us what it is that they do. And we hope that this report actually reflects what they said and they can see themselves in the report. Thank you. I'm now going to stop.
You can see why I refer to her as a colourful character. I thought that it was an extremely important piece of research. You have got it praised in the packs in front of you. So there is no excuse for any of you to say that you can't wade through a massive report, and it's a substantial piece of work. You have got the summary of it there. Share that summary. I'm going to invite Jacqui to come and speak in one take while she and Genevieve sort out the tech. Jacqui is the Deputy Director at the Royal Shakespeare Company. She has come right through the whole process, starting as an actor with the National Theatre and working to take education work into schools. She's been artist in residence at a Birmingham project, visiting primary and secondary schools in deprived areas of the city and using drama to raise the children's self-esteem. She joined the RSC originally as a freelancer, working closely with primary schools in Stratford-on-Avon through the TheatreLink scheme. And then in 2008 became Director of Learning at the RSC. She received the MBE in 2022 for her services to the arts, not just at the RSC, but more widely. And she was presiding over the Cultural Learning Alliance Zoom session that those extracts were taken from, and she can therefore talk about those. So I'm going to hand over now to Jacqui. Very many thanks for coming and being with us today and sharing your expertise. There will be a chance later on to ask questions of a panel of Jacqui and Dee and Julie and me. So we are running a little behind our schedule at the moment, but not to worry, it is flexible. We will think out of the box. So Jacqui, many thanks.
Hello? Yes, right. Hello. Really lovely to be with you this evening. I want to share some work that Pat has also been working with us at the RSC and the Cultural Learning Alliance on, which is a capabilities framework. And you'll see this strapline, building a shared language and value narrative. Lots of us in this room might feel, surely we don't need to keep making the argument and making the case for arts-rich schools, because we might feel that there is enough evidence that exists. We can see it. We've seen it beautifully with the children that we're singing here tonight, and so full of life in doing that. But what we know over 40 years of the first report that was published over 40 years ago by the Gulbenkian Foundation called The Arts in Schools, that's the kind of first major report that was really looking at what is the status and state and value of the arts in schools, primary and secondary schools. 40 years on, sadly, not a lot has changed in terms of, that report over 40 years ago was saying there is enough evidence to say that access to art, music, dance, drama should be a core entitlement that all children everywhere access. And that is still not true. And so with the Cultural Learning Alliance, the RSC has been working over the past 18 months with Pat, a number of other academics, a number of arts educators, teachers, in order to create what we're calling a capabilities framework. So I'm going to share that with you tonight. Great to get your thoughts on it. Just one thing to say, it's built on over 1,100 pieces of individual research. So anybody that goes, oh yeah, it's nice if you can, or anybody who goes, yeah, but they haven't got the evidence, absolute nonsense. We have scoured the globe and we have over 1,100 pieces of rigorous research across all of those 4 different subject areas: art and design, music, dance, drama. It's irrefutable what I'll share tonight about the capabilities that these subjects and experiences build in children. So just a reminder of the broader societal context that we're operating in. 1 in 5 children, the latest research last year was that 1 in 5 children have a probable mental health condition. 4.3 million children are growing up in poverty. 1 in 4 children eligible for free school meals. The free school meal data goes up every single year, doesn't it? A fifth of young people regularly absent from school. The UK is ranked lowest out of 24 European countries for the proportion of 15-year-olds with high life satisfaction. That's a very difficult statistic. The LSE and universities of Exeter and Strathclyde suggest that the educational damage of COVID will continue into 2030. So these, very, very challenging context in which children are in this education system and teachers and arts and cultural workers working with those children. But what we have seen, just in terms of the decline, there's been an overall decline of 42% in the number of art GCSE entries since 2010, so over 15 years. Drop-off in drama is 39%, 48% dance, as you can see. Then, when we've said that to the Department for Education, they said, yes, but, that's to do with the population of young people having reduced. Well, actually, when you look at the overall percentage of the total number of arts GCSEs, back in 2010, 14% of all our GCSEs were art subjects. That's now halved to 7% of all GCSEs are art subjects. So irrespective of how many children are in the system, the numbers are going down. 41% of schools no longer enter any child for drama GCSE, 42% no longer enter a child for music GCSE. And the number of arts teachers overall has fallen by a fifth in that period. Now, why has that happened? I mean, there's multiple reasons, isn't there? But one of the reasons is we do not have a really compelling narrative, or we haven't had a really compelling narrative about what happens for children and young people when they are given an arts-rich education. I think sometimes the arts can be very siloed. There's a kind of music lobby and a drama lobby and an art and design lobby. And actually, all of it matters. Christopher, you were saying that at the beginning. All art subjects make a difference to children and young people. So we have to work collectively to actually present the case, the evidence base for why all of those subjects and disciplines really matter and make a difference. The other issue that is very stark now in terms of data is the correlation between poverty and arts take-up. So the Cultural Learning Alliance, again, they looked at the data of when we look at arts GCSE entries and we look at that regionally, do we see any correlation between the type of student that is more likely to take an arts GCSE? And indeed there is. So there is a correlation between areas of the country where you have the highest numbers of arts GCSE take-up are also the areas of the country where you see the lowest percentages of students eligible for free school meals. And then the opposite is true. The areas of the country where you see the lowest levels of entry to art GCSEs are the areas of the country with the highest percentages of students eligible for free school meals. So it is absolutely a matter of social justice that children living in certain parts of the country, the North East, the North West and the West Midlands are where we are seeing those correlations in the biggest numbers, i.e. those three parts of the country, we have the highest percentages of students eligible for free school meals and the lowest levels of arts GCSE take-up. So over 18 months, what we've done is really look at all of the research across art subject disciplines. As I say, we've looked at art and design, we've looked at music, we've looked at dance, and we've looked at drama. And then we've looked at what are the correlations that we can see of the kinds of capabilities that are being built in young people that cross over those art forms. And then with Pat, what we've done is we've basically got 7 capabilities, and we've set those capabilities underneath 3 pillars. One pillar of we're calling becoming and belonging. So that kind of, who do I want to be? And do I feel as though I belong here? Relating, so the kind of interpersonal skills, and then creative and critical thinking. So what that looks like is this. So across all of the research and evidence, we see these 7 capabilities most regularly evidenced as the things that children and young people are developing through their exposure to art subjects and experiences. Under becoming and belonging, agency comes out top of all of the arts disciplines. Agency and mental health, good mental health, are absolutely intrinsically linked. If we feel that we matter, if we feel that it's that thing of, do we feel done to, or do we feel we can actually be our own agents of change? Do we feel that we can make a difference? That comes out top as the key capability that young people are building through art subjects, probably because they are interpretive, probably because what the young person thinks really matters. So agency really top. Then well-being comes out really high across all of them. In terms of relating, collaboration, communication, empathy. Empathy comes out very, very strongly in drama, but it is present across all of the others. And then creative and critical thinking. So that development of creativity and the development of interpretation, the ability to interpret. Again, when we look at with people like bodies like the World Economic Forum, who are working with employers to go, what are the key capabilities that you need young people to come into the workplace with? They are on this list. They are the ability to interpret, the ability to think outside, the ability, the creativity, collaboration, communication. These are absolutely essential skills that employers are saying they are not seeing young people being equipped with in as big a number as they need to be as they come into the workplace. And yet we can irrefutably say that they are capabilities that are built through art subjects and experiences. What we did when we were building this list of capabilities, the very first time we workshopped this was with a group of head teachers and senior leaders. And we put this list in front of them, and a head teacher put their hand up and said, oh, they realised that when they looked at this list and they thought about the children in their school who didn't have those capabilities, they realised that what they were doing was giving them extra English and maths. What they weren't doing was actually looking at what are the subject areas that are going to really build these missing elements of that child's kind of capability toolbox. So what, just a kind of reflective question for you is, do you in your practice, do those 7 capabilities resonate with your experience? As practitioners, do you see those things in your classroom, in your schools? Are there children in your schools who are missing those capabilities? And if they are missing those capabilities, what exposure do they have to these subject areas, to arts disciplines that we know can build them? Are there some that feel more relevant to your context than others? And are there any that you feel are missing? Those are quite big questions when we haven't got very much time. But what I hope this gives you is just some things to reflect on. The capabilities that they are being published this week or next week. There's already a blog on the CLA website that really talks about how we developed all of this. What we hope is that this framework will start to be used within schools so that it can be a kind of audit process for yourself of, just assessing to what extent you're seeing these capabilities being built and to what extent you can say your school is arts rich. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Jacqui. That information, when that survey comes out, will be on our website. There's a lot of other stuff on the website, which I do encourage you to look at. If you have any parent, any governor who says that the arts don't matter, we have to do more of the 3 R's. It's the 3 R's. It's the 3 R's. For pity's sake, tell Michael Gove to jump in the lake. What does matter is the arts. And if they're not getting it, get them to look on our website. It's all there. We have a little interlude now, just to demonstrate that the children at Charlbury do get more than just singing. While Shannon's just putting the bits and pieces together and the band are coming on, I'm going to tell you 2 short stories. Are you there, Shannon? Shannon? Yes. Charlbury? Right. You saw there the thing about belonging and how important that is. I hadn't understood that when I agreed that we would do an art installation at Longford Park, another school in Banbury. It has a big hall with a very, very high roof, badminton style. And a couple of hundred little tiny children were lost. And the school said, let's do something that will fill the void above. And one of our brilliant creative artists took the children through the process of painting acrylic cut-out birds and hummingbirds, and then hanging these on wires. And we suspended from the ventilation grills a net, and then from the net we hung wires with all these lovely acrylic birds and hummingbirds on. When I went to the unveiling of this, I was sitting next to a little girl who had a teacher to her side. And she showed her teacher, you see that one there? That yellow and blue bird, that's mine. Now I belong. She was a Ukrainian refugee child. And what we were doing there was not just an art installation. We were giving her belonging, security in her school. How are we doing? Nearly there?
Sorry, yes.
And another little example, when we had the sculpture show 2 years ago, a little boy who came with his school beforehand, saw all the different things the schools had done, and brought his family back. Brought them back in order to show his bee. Now, this was a beehive that had been made with bees buzzing round it, and each child had made a bee. And to my mind, all the bees looked identical. But lots of children came up and showed their parents, my bee. And this little child did exactly that. He arrived with his parents, he was greeted, hello, how are you? Are you an artist here? What did you do? A bee. Let me shake your hand. It's an honor to meet an artist exhibiting here. Little boy just grew. I saw his mother in the post office a couple of weeks later, and she said, for the last 2 weeks, I've been told that I am the mother of an artist, a creative being. You can't imagine what that means. Creative people.
Hello, right. So my name is Jenny Grierson. I'm a Year 1-2 class teacher and also the music coordinator at Charlbury Primary School. And I've been at Charlbury School for over 10 years, and I've worked really hard to build up a strong musical culture at the school. I've been able to build this up because I've been permanently based at the school. I'm there every week. I know all of our pupils well, and I work with them on a regular basis, building up their skills, tracking their musical skills, encouraging children who might struggle, but also really pushing the really talented ones, so that they can reach their full potential. And the impact of this is a really strong embedded culture where children really do love music. Every pupil sings regularly in our singing assemblies where the children really do sing their hearts out. My head teacher sat in front of me, she's agreeing. We also have 2 really strong choirs, which I run together with another Charlbury musician and composer, Jenny Marler, and it was our junior choir that you saw earlier this afternoon. In addition to singing, every child plays instruments regularly. For Key Stage 1, that's percussion. For Year 3 and 4, ocarina or the recorder. Year 5 and Year 6 learn the ukulele. And this all happens in our dedicated music classroom. So we explore a wide range of musical practical skills, and we learn vocabulary needed to talk about music. We listen to a wide range of musical styles. They compose their own songs, and they have the opportunity to form their own bands once they reach Year 5 and Year 6. And you're about to hear one of those bands performing shortly. So when children reach year 5, they're able to book their own session in the music room where they can have, every week they have a practice session. We've got a drum kit, keyboard, guitars, ukuleles, whatever they choose their instruments. And we cover things like chords and how to play a bass line, a basic drum beat. We talk about all those things, the components needed to put together a band. And yes, in a minute you're going to hear from one of those bands. I feel really lucky to have had this opportunity to share my skills. I do find it sad that in some schools, music is often a subject that doesn't take priority simply because there isn't a music specialist based at the school. I do love the work that CATS is doing towards changing this and supporting experts in music and in art to go into other schools where these subjects aren't an embedded part of their school culture. So I'm going to hand over to the band. Rosie, are you having this microphone? Is it this microphone? Do you want to introduce yourselves?
We're The Unknown. Today we're going to be performing Stay by Miles Smith. Josh, the pianist, is going to count us in. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you wanna dance, take my hand, take my hand. Cancel all your plans, take a chance, take a chance. Ain't got forever, we only got today. If you got a night to feel alive, then baby stay. Late nights stuck in my head, this apartment's getting colder, colder. Gotta get out all night, stuck on your bed, stuck in my ways, turning circles, circles, dreaming about running wild in the city. Free my mind and my body go. Life's too short, are you with me? Come on, come on, come on. You wanna dance, take my hand, take my hand. Cancel all your plans, take a chance, take a chance. Ain't got forever, we only got today. You got a night to feel alive, then baby stay. If you wanna dance, take my hand, take my hand. Cancel all your plans, take a chance, take a chance. Ain't got forever, we only got today. You got a night to feel alive, then baby stay. Want you to waste a little time with me. Then not if I don't care about you, girl. Come fall asleep beneath the sky with me. Wanna get lost and forget about the world. If you wanna dance, take my hand, take my hand. Cancel all your plans, take a chance, take a chance. Ain't got forever, we only got today. If you got a night to feel alive, then baby stay. If you wanna dance, take my hand, take my hand. Cancel all your plans, take a chance, take a chance. Ain't got forever, we only got today. If you got a night to feel alive, then baby stay. Way too young to feel this soul. Feel the fire inside your bones. Way too young to feel this soul. Feel the fire. Come on, come on, come. Hurry up, I'm waiting. If you wanna dance, take my hand, take my hand. Cancel all your plans, take a chance, take a chance. Ain't got forever, we only got today. If you got a night to feel alive, then baby stay. If you wanna dance, take my hand, take my hand. Cancel all your plans, take a chance, take a chance. Ain't got forever, we only got today. If you got a night to feel alive, then baby stay. If you wanna dance, take my hand, take my hand. Cancel all your plans, take a chance, take a chance. Ain't got forever, we only got today. If you got a night to feel alive, then baby stay.
Great, isn't it, to see songs that have been written and being performed. I'm now going to introduce to Julie Lynn-Evans. Julie is a well-known specialist in child and adolescent psychological problems, psychotherapist working with a number of schools, and has written a number of books and articles and so on. She's been inspirational in CATS, in helping us understand that what we're trying to do here is not just about teaching people to paint or to play an instrument. It is actually something that has a major impact on their psychological health and well-being, and that it is the arts that are absolutely key to that. So, Julie, over to you.
Hello. I don't really need to say anything. It's all been covered. The importance of the arts, the state of our children, the state of our schools, the state of the arts in our schools. So I think I've got no notes, and I'm just going to go slightly personal. I'm going to reflect on something Christopher said. Extra tuition and extra maths and extra English being rammed down children's throats to get them through 11 pluses and GCSEs and things, it's just a waste of time. I see children who are over-tigered, mothered or parented, told to do more of what they hate because they can't sit still in class and stuff like that. They are bored, they are tired, they are washed out, they are not having any fun. I literally lie on the floor with them in my consulting room and do sound therapy, I do puppet play, I do drawing, I do puzzles, and I tell them they're not allowed to do any work. And they're absolutely amazed. There's a grown-up saying, do not you dare you go home and do your maths tonight. You live with this and live with the fact that you're okay as you are and you've just done that. And the parents ring me up and say, do you know what you're doing? And I go, no, not really. I can absolutely promise you those children do better with their exams and their GCEs because they like themselves. And if you like yourself, you can think. And if you can think, you can work. So that's one thing I've picked up today. Every single fact, figure, slide show, just and that idea of our children being 24th on the list of mental health at 15. It makes me want to cry because I see it every day. Well, I work 3 days a week now. I see it 3 days a week. It's so true. So I'm just going to talk in generalisations for a moment because there's always been very serious mental health amongst children, and the psychiatrists are needed. And the deep depression is. I'm not talking about that, and early onset schizophrenia and stuff like that. Let's put that aside. I've done this work for 40 years, so I've seen it for a long, long time. But there's a new thing on the block, and there's been a perfect storm. We had austerity. I think that did so much damage. We had COVID. I think that did so much damage. And we've had the technological revolution, and that is doing so much damage. And you put the three together, parents on the whole, mostly now, I think, have to all have jobs to pay for the mortgage. You haven't got usually a stay-at-home parent anymore. The children learnt to be alone, learnt to be on their phones, and that was their resource and their communication. They haven't got necessarily the funding that they need. Teachers are having, I think, a terrible time. And when people were sort of clapping for the healthcare people, I think they should have been clapping for the teachers. All the teachers were at home giving lessons while their children, because teachers usually have children, were next door doing lessons too. And I don't know how you all got through it, actually, but I'll slightly digress. So you've got austerity, COVID, technological revolution, and parents having to work a job each. So nobody's really, really able to be at home. And what I'm seeing now because of all of that is a low-level depression, a lack of spirit, a lack of gumption, a lack of resolve, a lack of that ghastly word everybody's using all the time now, resilience. The children are not really showing up for life. And when they come to my consulting room, they're talking to me that they have face dysmorphia, and boys have got it too. That wasn't happening 20 years ago. They have body dysmorphia. They're comparing themselves online all the time. They're much more interested in how they're going to get a new set of false eyelashes or a new set of gym shoes. That's probably always happened, actually. But then they are almost about anything else. And they're very, very, as I said, I'm really talking generalisations. They're very inward-looking, waiting to go home to get on their screen. So in a way, they can be more inward-looking. we all know, I think, that ADHD is up, ASD is up, self-harm is up, depression is up, suicide's levelled out since 2014 for some strange reason. Mental health is a really, really big problem. And it's very difficult to fix. I go around, I write about it. I go to schools. PTAs ask me to talk to parents. I do that. And each individual child, I will pull off their phone and try to give them back to life. But I've missed a trick, and that's what CATS is doing. And why I'm so keen on CATS is filling a gap between schools, which are having, I think teachers, I mean, also on top of this, teachers are being asked to be social workers, and you've got the health and safety and safeguarding and everything. I mean, it's really hard. And now you're being asked to do the art and stuff. So I think CATS is a bridge between the children who could or will have mental health issues and the teachers who need some help if they're open enough to invite CATS in. And what I see CATS doing is giving children something that's really their right, and that private school kids are lucky enough to be able to be given in spades, is the experience, the fun, the joy, the connection, the camaraderie, the ability to learn to fail, and it doesn't really matter. You can just get straight back up again and make a twit of yourself and carry on. The amount of children I have in my consulting room who cannot fail, and that is such a prison sentence for them for the rest of their lives. So CATS can give to the schools what the schools lack because of the present climate. And if the schools can use it, they will give to the children what the children desperately need because of this perfect storm. So I will fundraise. Any person here who wants me to do a workshop, I will do. Storytelling is my best thing. I will support. I think it's probably one of the most important things CATS can do, but I am going to ask Christopher to put sport in there as well quite soon, particularly as the government is going to reduce payment for that. But on that happy note, Christopher, with the thought that we'll be having coffee together soon, and thank you very much for everything you do.
Thank you, Julie. Right, I'm scheduled now to tell you a little bit about what CATS is actually offering and what we're trying to do. A lot of you already know this and have already seen examples of it. And if I'm saying something that you've heard before, I apologise. But I think for some of you, it will be new. It's clear, I think, that what we are all seeing is the need to create an arts-rich environment in schools. I want to point you at our website quite clearly and frequently. Please look at it, see what's on there, follow us on the social media, look at our blogs. We are trying to bring to you the research and so on that is going on. There is a lot of it. There's research in America, research in Sweden, research here. Jacqui has summarised a number of the things that are going on elsewhere. But what it all overwhelmingly shows is that where there is an arts-rich environment in the school, the children will do better in all subjects. So it's because I do believe so passionately that making arts the bedrock of education is fundamental to our children and their future well-being and their future employment prospects. Don't forget that. We may be only teaching 5 to 11-year-olds at the moment, but by the time they leave school, over half the jobs that they would have had 20 years ago will have disappeared. Our education system at the moment is not geared for that. We are churning them through an exam regime that is a treadmill, and it does not produce the right result. So having said why I think the arts-rich environment is important, I want to just run through what we are offering to try and help with. I'll start with the visual arts because that's where we started. You have in your pack a list of the workshops and so on that we are offering by way of visual arts. I think there are 26 or so, something like that, of different visual arts workshops that you can get on a termly basis. It means by the time a child has gone through the school, they will have had about half of them. The point is that they will all have had something different every term. We are not trying to produce the syllabus. There isn't an arts syllabus. Ofsted just says it's very important. But, Kapow, Access Art have produced a syllabus, and we will pay the subscription for you to use Kapow or Access Art for all your general teachers to be able to do art. It is no good accepting from any general teacher, I can't paint, I can't draw, I can't do art with the children. Rubbish. Get on with it. You're a teacher. Learn how to do it. Use the resources that are there. There is a short video for every week of the term telling you what you can do in art and then telling the children what they can do, and you can do it with them. Your art cupboard should be fully stocked. Your school has a stationary budget that should allow it to have all sorts of arts materials in it. If it's become destocked through austerity and whatever, and you need a kickstart, we will give you a kickstart. But then it's up to you to keep it going. We will then help with specialist things. If, for example, you ask for a CPD session in staff meetings, and we teach you a dozen different ways of doing engraving, we will also give you £100 worth of specialist materials to add to your arts cupboard variety so that you can go on doing different types of engraving with your children in school week by week as it goes on. So that variety of things that they can do is what we are offering you by way of visual arts, and it's all there, it's all working. 10,000 children in this area are now getting that on a termly basis. If you're not getting all that, it isn't because you haven't been offered it, it's because you have chosen not to take it up. And those are two very different things. What we're also experimenting with a few schools is something that is offered by Art in Schools, and that is TV screens that the school has to already have at the moment, but we may offer them too, on which will be shown paintings, old masters and modern ones, and there will be questions about those and aids for teachers to be able to discuss those, and they'll change weekly. And this is all part of trying to create children to think about pictures and what they show, why they're painted that way, what was the artist's intention, how does it communicate to them. And we're looking into the Robson or Visual Literacy Initiative that Oxford University is doing. If you want more about it, there's a panel at the back there, all about it. And you can lock your school into that and be part of that now. What they're beginning to do is to see how visual literacy connects with other literacy. If a child understands painting a little bit, it will help them understand reading a little bit. And boy, is that needed. When we were all at school, when we did literacy, we did comprehension, and there was a 750-word piece, and we had to answer questions and understand what was inferred at different points in that comprehension. And now the tests are changed, and there are 10 sentences of 75 words, and yes and no tick box answers as to what was it that was said. Child hasn't had to read and think, understand, comprehend. They can just skim and tick a box. Might suit how computers work, but it doesn't create creative people with cognitive awareness. And that's why this generation has a lower level of cognitive awareness than our generation had. There's other research going on elsewhere that I'm trying to find ways of connecting us into. Manchester and Winchester universities have got programs looking at how the arts are the basis of creating an engineering frame of mind. Might not be obvious, but actually, there are a few nerds who are natural engineers and will become engineers regardless of what they do at school. But if you want more engineers and more technicians and more designers and more people who are going to be creative visually, you have to tap on that larger segment of the children who will be able to express themselves visually, will be able to imagine and create, if now they are doing art and learning how to draw and to paint and to build Lego models and to build clay models and papier-mâché models and all these other things that are visually creative. I want to turn to music because we came to this slightly later than we did the visual arts. And I'm taking it slightly more slowly because it's awfully difficult. It's difficult because it is so expensive. And this is why the music hubs have withdrawn and are no longer offering their services in most of the primary schools in our area. That may change. It has to change if the government's promises in relation to the Francis report that came out a couple of months ago are to begin to mean anything. Because you're not going to be able to change the level of arts awareness in secondary schools. And Jacqui showed you those figures, which are on our website, showing how the number of children doing arts is just collapsed in the secondary schools. You won't suddenly change that in the secondary schools by waving a magic wand of resources at secondary schools if the children coming up from the primaries have had no music, have had no art. They won't start it from scratch at 11 in the morning. There are exceptions. Birmingham Orchestra is doing one in Birmingham, which is brilliant, and it was fascinating to see when I went to visit that. That is getting kids who have never done art and music doing music every day, all the way through their school syllabus. The one condition of going to that academy is that you will be doing music as a GCSE subject, and you will be learning an instrument, and you will take it to at least grade 3. If you as a parent don't like that condition, send your child to another academy, but they are making it a requirement. So things can change at secondary level, but in the main, if the existing secondary schools are going to do anything about the arts levels, the change has to come at primary. So what we have tried to do with Oxford Opera, with Loughborough Festival Opera, is to encourage schools to have music opera workshops, which gives all children an experience of music. I know a lot of people said, you're mad doing opera. What children don't like opera, especially working class children don't like opera. And ethnically different children won't want opera. But rubbish. Every child is an opera singer. If you can sing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, you're an opera singer. And if you're singing it quietly and timidly, it just means you need a bit of training. And then you can sing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star like an opera singer. And they very quickly get the hang of that. And they very quickly learn to do it. And at the end of a day or two, can put on a shortened version of Hansel and Gretel and understand a little bit about opera. And there's a lot more that can be done down that road. And we're going to have some talks with the Army of Balmy Composers, ABC, who have developed not only opera workshops like Loughborough and Oxford have been delivering in schools around our area, but have also developed a whole series of workbooks and so on that general teachers can follow through with afterwards, developed with Swansea University. And the Army of Barmy Composers will be doing a workshop in Chipping Norton's Theatre as part of the Dean and Chadlington Music Festival this summer. And they will do other things in other schools, and you will get the chance to ask them to come. That Dean and Chadlington initiative is one that is building on work they have done the last couple of years with the Royal Birmingham Conservatoire junior musicians coming to do concerts in our pavilion at Kingham and inviting other children who are playing instruments to come and listen to those. Some schools have taken us up on that, free tickets. You'd be amazed how many schools have not. The Chipping Norton Music Festival has for years offered children the chance to sing, to recite, to perform, to play an instrument, all sorts of categories. The number of children taking part has gone down and down and down and down and down. Now there's a concerted effort going around the schools to try and get more schools to take part, more schools to put an entry in, put their choirs up to take part, and so on. And there is help. You know, if you want fares money to get the children to the festival, it's there. If you want somebody from the theatre to come and teach your children how to perform for that festival, they will come. And it's all there on our website. We are offering that help. The theatre will come. It won't cost you. It's there. With music, coming back to how difficult I have found this to make any progress with, it's a question of changing in many schools the basic culture of the school. Because it isn't just a question of getting children singing. If they're going to learn an instrument, you have got to rejig your timetable to facilitate that. What we started with was providing to any school that wanted it class sets of ocarinas, because we discovered that an ocarina is an awful lot easier for a general teacher who can't play an instrument to learn and teach than a recorder. And any general teacher can learn to play an ocarina well enough to be able to teach it to her children or his children the following week. And children can play tunes on ocarinas, and they can take grades in ocarinas. And they can do ukuleles, and a general teacher can teach a ukulele. And there are parents around who can play a guitar and can play a ukulele and would come in to help. And we will provide ocarinas, we will provide ukuleles and class sets of them with handbooks for the teacher. And if you've been doing that and you want to move on, we will provide you with guitars, we will provide you with keyboards, we will provide you with recorders. I can't at the moment offer you a teacher for all those things. But if you can find a peripatetic teacher who will come and help your children with that, we will help finance that peripatetic teacher. And what, with the aid of a couple of very generous individuals, we have been able to do is to take the two Jennies, who you have seen here with their children today, Jenny Grierson and Jenny Marler, and pay them a day a week each to go into other schools to try and create a musical culture in that school. And in the last month, we've put out on Facebook a request for other people to do that sort of thing, and we have had several more applicants. So if your school hasn't got a music teacher, and you feel that you need somebody to come in and help one day a week to create that musical culture in your school, we will try and find you that help. I'm attaching now a condition to it. And that is that you don't leave it to that teacher alone. Your general teachers have got to continue with this in between. The children need practice. There is help. Sing Up have material. Aurora have material. It's free. It's there. Kapow all have programs. we'll help with all those being available, but you've got to put in the spade work of time with general teachers to keep it going in between so that the children really do get progress. We're also trying to help by providing performance opportunities. I've referred to what Chipping Norton Music Festival is offering. Dean and Chadlington has an opportunity with the Army of Barming Composers, but we've also offered concert opportunities. There's 2 through Chipping Norton Music Festival this March for a couple of hundred children to take part in choirs, a whole day workshop, and then perform at the end of the day. In Banbury in the summer, we've got Caius Lee, the musical director at Worcester College, coming to do another workshop. We had one in Churchill this last summer, but he will do one in Banbury this coming summer. It'll be a chance for 200 children to sing, to learn the material in the preceding weeks with him or one of his students coming into the school, then to polish it up on the day and to perform it in the afternoon. And the other children in the school will be able to fit into St Mary's in order to be able to listen along with parents and others. We can get 500 into that place, and I hope you're going to fill it. Guiting Power Music Festival is another festival in Cats, and they're also putting on a family days in their festival. And again, schools in that area, Gloucestershire area, will be invited to take part in that. And Loughborough Festival Opera has been putting music teachers into half a dozen schools now for 2 or 3 years, teaching singing week by week, and also giving opportunities for keen children to take part in their programme, and some of them to go on and take part in their opera when it's performed in August. I want to turn just to dance, because this is one that we've only just begun to pick up, really. We did from the beginning say, does anybody want to do ballet? And you can do the Primary Steps programme offered by the Royal Ballet School, and all you need for that is space, because on the screen, everything that you need for the child to do will appear, and your general teacher can just encourage them to do it. Some schools have got on with it, and some have found it actually doesn't really work. It's just not exciting enough. What has been very exciting this last term is African dance and drumming. And that has been a real turn on. We've had a really good drummer coming in, sets of drums for the children to learn on, and some really good African dancing. And don't expect me to demonstrate, but it's really energetic stuff to do. And what has been very encouraging to see is that SEN children who, when they went to the first demonstration, and I was there for that first session, they were either sitting over at one side, sort of smirking and laughing and didn't want to take part, or were having to leave in their earmuffs for quiet time outside, etc. Now they're all there, they're all taking part, they're all dancing around, they're all learning how to create their particular routine, demonstrate it, where they are the teacher, to their classmates, and then see their classmates learn their routine. Just think what that means to an SEN child who is bottom in every other subject. Here, they can get confidence, they can lead, they become somebody. It really does make a difference, and it really does matter. And if we can extend that, and we can find more good drumming teachers, we will try and do so. I've referred to Chipping Norton's offer to help prepare children who want to speak at the Chipping Norton Music Festival, but they're also offering workshops to schools on pantomime skills, or on, you can role play a bullying situation or role play a domestic abuse situation. If you've got a 2-year wait for mental health services through schools, then these sorts of role-playing exercises can be vital therapy. It's not just drama. It is more than that. And Chippy is now doing 10 schools at the moment that we're helping to finance, and then we'll go on to do more after that. And then finally, on that area of things we're offering, oracy. Nobody at the moment is taking us up seriously on oracy. But the English Speaking Board is there. All the local prep schools do this. Why should the prep school children get oracy and our children don't? I don't understand it. Gloucestershire has started to try and do something about it through the county council, but all children should be doing oracy. They should all be able to read a poem, read a prose piece, recite a poem from memory, give a little talk about their guinea pigs or their Lego or their mouse or whatever else it might be, initially to their classmates, but later to the whole school. No child should be afraid of coming up here and talking to all of you. And yet we are churning out children who couldn't do a sales presentation to save their lives, or argue about their meter reading, or ask for a rent rebate, or whatever else it might be that children need to be able to articulate for. So what we're trying to do in CATS is to encourage, stimulate, to enthuse. I've provided in those packs some questions that we're asking you as a school to think about with a view to creating an arts-rich culture in the school. It's looking at the resources the school has, the way the school can think outside the box, things that the school can do, not just rely on CATS. But where we can help, we will. And we will also try to collate the information, because it isn't simply Ofsted who will ask you about this, and they will. And when you're able to tell them what you're doing with CATS and what you're doing, your school approval ratings will go up. Ofsted think this is marvellous. But I also want to collate it for funders so we can get more funding, and for the government, because I want to demonstrate and prove here what an ordinary collection of ordinary arts organisations and ordinary schools can do, and that this can be rolled out across the county and it can be rolled out across the country. And if you're going to implement the Francis Report and improve arts in the secondary schools, this has got to happen in the primary schools. If you think I'm boring you on the subject, you wait till you're Minister of Education and I come and sit beside you and bore her with the subject, which I am going to do. We are also in talks to try and extend CATS across the county. The Lord Lieutenant is very keen we have a go at doing this. It's pretty difficult to look at how we're going to raise the millions that it will take. But these things can happen, if one tries, and, we are trying. And you've seen in your pack, there's an article by Richard Morrison that appeared in the Times a couple of weeks ago, talking about what CATS is offering and how more places need to do this sort of thing. That has brought in several £1,000s of donations to CATS, spontaneously from people we've never heard of, not in our area, having read about it and just wanting to help. But I think it's also key to unlocking some much larger grants, and that's where we might be able to use them for rolling CATS out more widely. And I've also shared in that pack some thinking aloud thoughts about how we keep CATS going. Because I'm an old man and I'm going to drop off my perch at some point, and you lot have got to carry this on without me. And if that is to happen, and there is to be an ongoing organisational structure with an ongoing trust and an ongoing involvement of people in that partnership, and therefore it feels to everybody like a partnership of arts organisations and schools working to a common end. We need to come up with a structure that allows that to happen. And so I've put in a draft paper for you to have a look at and to think about. Share your thoughts, share them with your colleagues, share them with us. I would welcome that. We will try to be responsive to any feedback that you give. But over the course of the next year, we will constitute CATS not just as something administered by my charitable trust, but as an independent charitable trust and organisation with a council, a committee, and all the rest of the paraphernalia that we didn't do when we started, but is needed if this is to be ongoing and we're all to work together. And in case some of you think that you're going back and you won't get support from your school or from elsewhere, I just want to share with you something that I've always thought matters in many different things. I've done a long life of campaigning on different matters. And that is the saying by Descartes that all that is needed for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. All that is needed for a generation of children to have no understanding of the arts, no appreciation of the arts, and to have a lower cognitive ability than their parents is for us to do nothing. It is for each one of you and me to do our bit so that we can tackle this together. Thank you. I'm going to ask Julie and Dee to join me up here. And Jacqui, if Jacqui is here, well, she's still here for 5 minutes. Jacqui has a telephone call to do at 7, unfortunately, for an emergency, so she'll bob out at that point, but she will come back. She's just doing an urgent telephone call. And Dee? So this is your chance now, please, to ask questions and to contribute. If you've got something that you feel you want to get off your chest, or an idea that you want to share, or anything like that, this is your chance to do it. But this is also your chance now to ask all those difficult questions that we didn't give you a chance to ask earlier. There are microphones here if you want a microphone, if you feel you can't project well enough.
No, it's from our country. I've got a really loud teacher. I just wanted to say to Dee that I came over to the school the other day and I saw what they're doing with the Arts Through Schools. We're doing a little pilot project with Oxford University where I'm working, and it was fantastic. And the children are getting a drip of a picture every single day. And all the children are commenting on it, and it's going to be part of the art ambassadors going to get involved. So it's a really interesting project, and I also went to the very school as well, and everything you're doing is really interesting too. And what is fantastic is that both the schools are using it in very different ways. So instead of something being done to the schools, they're telling us how we want to use the resources. And I think that's a really important point.
Karen's with Oxford Brookes University, who we've been working with now for 3 years. We send groups of our children from our schools. We pay for the coaches and the snacks and things so that they can go to Oxford Brookes and be the guinea pigs for young teachers learning how to teach art. And some of the work that they've produced from those workshops is then exhibited at the sculpture show every 2 years. And it's a partnership the schools treasure. because it gives children an insight into a university, and that's pretty good for raising aspiration levels. But this Arts Through Schools programme is something where I'm currently research organiser for it, and we have facilitated by introducing a couple of schools, and hopefully we'll add a lot more next year. Do you want to say how it's worked for you?
Yes, so we had to make it quite low level for teachers because obviously they're very busy. So we wanted to put it on in the hall, so they have a picture on in the hall, and we wanted children to just have the option to go and comment on a picture if they wanted to. And so the pictures on the wall, and then the title of the artwork, and then what they see and how does it make them feel. And then each day the artwork changes, and it's just really nice that children coming in, they expect it's there. While they're sat eating lunch, they'll actually talk about it. And so I think there was it was quite an old painting of a horse that was really scared, and it's called The Lion Fighting, the Horse Fighting by Lion.
Yeah,
And the kids sat there like, well, where's the lion? And no one can see the lion, and they had massive issues. And so in it, and then we had lots of sit to me. Where's the lion? She can't see the lion. We're really upset. There's no lion. And so yeah, it's just thought-provoking and a really easy way of just adding to the interest that the arts were important.
Because the young people I want to speak to at St Mary's School, they were so enthusiastic. They had all these different questions about each of the different places they were seeing every day. It was really, really good. Or is it?
Thank you. We've done other work with a painting on in the jungle, Rousseau's painting, which was chosen by a National Gallery, I think, last year for work. And two of our artists went and did, with a school that was using that, lots of charcoal drawings drawn from the jungle and modelled tigers and other things. And these were then all exhibited in the gallery in Banbury. Joan.
I'm checking on the music festival. I'd just like to say, if anybody would like to know anything more about it, I've got some handouts that did make it into the pack. And also, I'd really like some email addresses so we can let you know. The festival closes, entries close next week. But it'll happen all again next year, and I will send you out information in September if I have more schools.
And although it's called Chipping Norton, you know, it will accept applications from Banbury and Woodstock and Cirencester and whoever. And
drama, speech and drama, big speech and drama classes. And I would just like to say, I'm doing this, and things standing up for you, because like Christopher, every year I get mad because actually private school children get all these opportunities. When I was a child, you were sent to private school to make your academic achievements better. You're now sent to private school to do sport, music and drama, and that is terrible. So please help us give your children those opportunities. It's in the curriculum, it's in the national curriculum.
Hello, sorry, my name's Katie. I'm from Oxford Opera Company, and I know lots of you here. Hello, nice to see you all. I think what's interesting recently, we've been in to see lots of you, so thank you for letting us in. And it's always quite good fun. We always start our sessions by saying to people, to the children, this is one way you can't get anything wrong. Whatever you say, whatever you do, it's your creativity, and you know that's the whole point of you being here, which has been fantastic. But we recently did a thing. I collaborated with Jill, and we went into Longford Park. Hi, Zoe. And we went in and did some workshops based on the magic flute, but we did them differently throughout the whole school. Some of you have had Tamina's Adventure, so you know what that means. And also, then Jill brought artists in. Some of your fabulous artists came in, and they did artwork that linked with the opera workshops we were doing. So it was quite a nice tie-in with the different things that Christopher very kindly and Kat support. And just while I've got the microphone, I'd like to say thank you, because when I first took over as the education manager at Oxford Opera Company, I wrote to 123 schools, but because there's a cost, only 3 responded. You know, that's just the way it is. And so I think we saw 300 children in our workshops the year before I arrived. And then we entered into this collaboration supported by Cotswold, and I think we saw almost 3,000 the next year. So if we haven't been in, terrible idea to give me a microphone. If we haven't been in, we want to come in. We want to make your children sing, dance, act, and look at all those transferable, fabulous skills that we're very kindly being supported to provide. Thank you.
Standing up is the scary bit. I just want to say I'm from Hillview School in Banbury. I also work at Hamwell Fields. And I just want to say thank you, actually, because Hillview in particular, we've had art workshops in both schools, which have just been incredible. You know, the quality of the artwork that children produce is just phenomenal. And as one child said to me, you know, a bit like you said, one child said, "I'm an artist." You know, so the art workshops have been fantastic. We've also had Oxford Opera, who came in and did fantastic workshops with Year 5 last year across both schools. I still can picture Noah with his feathers, yes. But particularly in music, because I teach music at Hillview and at Hamwell, and we've actually restructured our music curriculum this year at Hillview because we've had support from you. So we had a set of class ukuleles last year, and we've changed as I said, changed the curriculum, changed the timetable for music so that every child can have a music lesson every week, which, you know, wasn't happening previously, and I think probably in a lot of schools doesn't happen, you know, that children can have that weekly music lesson. So now all of our children in Year 3 learn the recorder for the whole year, all of our children in Year 4 learn ukulele, all of our children in Year 5 learn keyboards. And I just feel like it's giving them that opportunity to actually have a really sustained period of learning an instrument. It's not just happening for a term. They're doing it all through the year. And I also feel that from a parent's point of view, if your child has done, you know, ukulele for a whole year or keyboard for a whole year and then says, actually, I want to carry on with this, at least you know they've done it for a year. They haven't had, you know, a couple of lessons and they're going to get bored. So I just want to say thank you. And obviously we're now thinking about how can we embed this even further and what can we do next. So I'd be, you know, excited to hopefully chat to you about that, about where we can go next. So thank you very much.
One of the things about points that you're making there about the importance of doing this for a period of time was underlined to me when I went to Birmingham to see the children who were starting things there. They're given a chance to try a number of different instruments in their first 3 weeks at the school. At the end of the 3 weeks, they have to choose what they're going to do. Now, that can be the cello, the violin, keyboard, drums, trumpet, trombone, whatever. They've got the lot there. You know, they're sponsored by an orchestra, remember. But then they have to stick at it, because the hardest thing for this generation of kids to do is to stick at anything. They're being reared on 45-second attention spans of TikTok. And if that's what they've become used to, practicing something in order to produce a result is a major obstacle. So the fact that they have to do it and have to become proficient at it in order to then take part in the concert or whatever it is at the end of the term, and they are, and they're doing it, and they're loving it, and they're telling the next year's children who come in what it's all about and why. And parental participation, which in the beginning was about 10% when anything was put on that parents were invited to, is now more like 90%. And their rooms are packed out. So, you know, sticking at it is very important, and that's part of what makes music different from art, and one of the things that makes it harder for us to pay for and introduce and encourage. But it can be done, and you're doing most of it yourselves. You know, we might be giving a little bit of help here and there, but you're the ones tweaking it and making it happen. Sorry, you had a question.
Thank you. Quick question. What would the success of Cats look like in 5 years' time? What kind of impact do you want to have on I suppose, schools, governments, etc.?
Well, I hope I'm here to see it. You know, when you get to my age, it is inshallah. But I hope that we will have a situation where most schools in the county are working with local arts organisations in a whole variety of different ways. And here where we started it, I hope that most of you will be doing all these different things that we're trying to do. You know, you saw the chart of the different things that arts-rich schools are doing. We're trying to add textiles and photography in on top of the art activities so that we can help you, guide you down that road if you want to try. All these things are there. They can all be made to happen, but it's the teachers who decide whether or not the children get these opportunities. And I think what that teacher in Poplar said is absolutely key here. Our children are being deprived of these opportunities if they come from most of our backgrounds. You know, most of our schools are in rural areas with poor public transport connections, and very often parents who have had no education in the arts, no experience of the arts, they wouldn't know where to take their children if the children expressed an interest. And in Banbury and other places, there's a high ethnic diversity. I think Longford Park has 36 primary languages. It makes it pretty difficult sometimes to help people understand a culture and get familiar with a whole range of different activities and things. But if we can create that situation where all these things are happening in all these schools and a generation of children are going up into the secondaries, wanting to do art, wanting to do drama, wanting to do art and dance and so on, then you know, we would have created a fundamental change for a whole generation of children. And why not? It's up to you, not up to me, it's up to you. You know, we together can make it happen.
Felicity?
I really, it's been fantastic evening, so thank you for that. But I'd just like to add a rider to something which has been a lot of people expressed before, that I was at a conference last year called the Ways of Seeing Conference at the Tate Gallery, which is held for students studying history of art at A-level. And I believe there are only 18 state schools in England where you can study history of art at A-level. And at lunchtime, I was going around talking to the students saying, why are you studying? And there was a Chinese girl there, and I said, what are you going to do? Are you going to study it when you go to university? Oh, no, she said, I'm going to study medicine. And I said, why are you studying history of art if you're going to be doing medicine? And she said, because it gives me such a good insight into society, culture, and the psychology of my patients. Which I think is a really good viewpoint, and very profound for a 17-year-old, I think.
Felicities with the Worshipful Company of Art Scholars, who introduced us to the idea of treasure chests. And we now have a couple of chests available in our pack where somebody will come with a chest of different things, you know, medals, bits of silver, bits of porcelain, things that are 3,000 years old, things that are 30 years old, a chance for the children to handle them and see just a little bit of what their art, heritage and culture actually looks like and how it was made and why it happens, and to write with a feather and all these other different things that are interesting to do. And we have got our own chest together now, and with Felicity's help have got that going round in other schools. Another question.
Hi, Rebecca from Oxford. Picture this, the piece in your pack. If you'd like to sign up, we'd love to hear from you. One of the pieces that we've been looking at is the idea of fit, and how we've seen so many young people, particularly in secondary schools, really want a sense of fit. When they think about their career and their career motivations, that it's not the idea of an easy job. An easy job is one of the lowest sort of markers of an interesting job to them. It's fun, matching them, and matching what makes them want to get up in the morning. And I think that's a really, really important and a positive sort of piece. However, the vast majority of the people we've spoken to do not feel that they fit with any profession in particular. So I entirely agree with what you were saying about that idea of sort of scrolling through and seeing so much. And I do feel there's a sense of overwhelm. And I was wondering, possibly from your perspective, how you've seen that idea of both cultural confidence, their ability to engage, their ability to look critically and closely has developed and changed through, through obviously art, but also music and drama and dance. How can that change attention and therefore affect positively ideas of fit? Very long question, sorry.
I would pass this to Jacqui if she was here. I'm afraid she's stuck on her telephone call, but you can ask her for follow-through on it if you want to afterwards. But I will give you the answer that I think she would have given, which is to say, look, there's 1,000 pieces of research out there, and all the research is absolutely overwhelming, showing that if people are getting an arts-rich environment and learning to think for themselves and to be creative and expressive and to work with others and be empathetic and so on, then they will find it much easier to work out how they fit in society, how they are confident in themselves and in their place in life, and a much bigger range of opportunities will be available to them than if they hadn't had any of that. Because those kids who are going through the system now without that arts-rich environment are going to be part of those 1 in 5, we're headed for now, who can't find jobs when they leave the university treadmill because they haven't got the right set of skills for the jobs that are now available. And that's going to get worse, not better.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I was talking to the head of the Royal College of Midwives, and she told me that she's having a really, really tough time because anybody under 35 now doesn't really often quite show up for work because they have mental health days and stuff like that. And in the old days, you just turned up. And she said it's a nightmare because people are having their babies and the midwives aren't there. So this resilience and it doesn't matter, I will show up, strength, spirit, good English fighting spirit, we're losing it. And we need it back. And we're not going to get it back by learning 3 hours and doing these tick boxes on computers and stuff like that. We're going to get it back by playing rugby and sport and getting very muddy and getting knocked down and getting back up again. I know you're very old.
Far too old for that.
Only that we're from the opposite end of the spectrum, that some of our parents don't have jobs. So we're trying to say, let's break the cycle. Let's actually, we try and encourage our children that actually we want them to want to come to school, even if they don't get sent to school, so that actually when they go to secondary school, they actually want to go, and actually you can be the change. You can do whatever you want to do, but you've got to want it. And so we talk a lot about with our year sixes, I'm not going to drag you. You've got to meet me halfway, but we will help you because actually we want them to get a job and we want them to break that cycle and want to go to school. I think with sport, because we're very sport orientated as well as a school, but actually having that resilience of going on and performing. So we perform at the music festival and the concerts and things, but actually being scared and doing something and being that nervous and doing it, that helps build resilience as well. So performances, any performances you can do, it's then saying it's okay to be nervous. We're all going together. Let's all do it. And I think that also builds up resilience in children that they don't necessarily have. So I think that helps as well.
Thank you, Dee, because our motto is confidence through performance, and that's exactly what we're about, to try to things, encourage people to have a go, and it doesn't matter, and we're all a bit stupid and we're making things ourselves sometimes, and that's okay.
One of the things that I think is perfectly appalling at the moment is our system for providing state aid to people. And saying that, if you're mentally sick, you don't have to turn up for work and the state is going to pay you. And therefore having an ever-increasing number of people just sitting on their backsides, scrolling through their phones and bringing now 1 in 5 of our university leavers into that same climate and culture seems to be perfectly appalling. And Dee's quite right. If we're going to break that cycle, it's through the arts that we'll do it. Now, we'll make one question, it's our last question, and then your paella is awaiting you, and I'll tell you what you have to do to get it.
Good evening, and I just wanted to say thank you. I'm feeling very inspired. My name's Rian. I am a music specialist, but I also teach art and cooking skills to young people who are in care with special needs, emotional and behavioural needs as well. Previous to that, I've worked in mainstream secondary school as a music specialist, and I have been a child of the 70s. I was lucky enough to have free music lessons when I was at primary school, where I was very shy, and I was the last minute put my hand up and said, yeah, I want violin lessons. And that was a turning point in my life completely, and it transformed me, and I've done all sorts through music, and it's just been fantastic. I think some of the obstacles that I've seen in my career has been the changes that have gone on politically, but also from SLT. SLT have a really key role with the arts. Options in secondary schools is a massive change. Where it used to be the arts were spread across at least 2 option boxes, now it's often only in 1. We are narrowing children's options on what they can do, and if they're artistic, we're only giving them maybe 1 or 2 things that they can do, and often they're all in the same box, so they don't have the option to do art, music and drama and develop all those lovely skills and be able to do those. So I think that's one of the things I would really like to sort of champion in schools, is to get change in and get the people thinking about things. STEM was a big thing back in the sort of 2000s and still is. And I think that's maybe we need to be alongside that now and say so are the arts, and we need to have more of that in schools, please. So thank you.
Thank you. I think that was a comment rather than a question, so we won't say more here. Right, I want to thank you, Dee, and thank you, Julie, and thank you to all of you for coming. It is, I know, a commitment to give up your time for this, but we're very grateful, and we're very grateful to you as schools, we're very grateful to you as funders, for those who are helping us financially. To all our supporters who have been giving money or giving of their time, there's a whole variety of ways in which that is happening. People who are giving, by monthly standing order, some giving large donations, some just giving their time, helping here and sculpture show and other places. And to all our artists, musicians, singers, drummers, teachers, dancers, none of this would happen without all the work that they do. And likewise, those in the back rooms, the school offices and our office, Genevieve here, Jill, organising the timetabling. These are essential things that have to happen. And as we start to assemble more data and ask you for more data to make our case more widely, we've employed Impact Ed to help us with this, and we've installed customer relations management software to collect it all. We're going to do this professionally. We'll do it properly, but we will do it with you so that we can make the case for better support more widely. So thank you to all of you. Please look at the dot on your label, and please go to a card with a matching colour. The idea is that you will there meet other people of your inclination and interest, be that music, be it art, be it in general teaching, be it as a head or as a governor or whatever. And if you're none of those things in education, but you're a donor or an art specialist, you'll find I might have allocated you almost on random. But anyway, please do now mix and meet and network with other people. Your paella will come to you, and there will be something to drink with it.